Hi, I'm Karen. We're here at Montevilla Sewing Center, and today we're talking about the Pfaff Quilt Expression 720. In this video, I'm going to show you the touchscreen. Now, the touchscreen has parts of it that they just stay the same, and other parts of it that change. This center part will change depending on what button you push. So for instance, if I was in settings, it tells me that. Another really neat thing is this question mark here. If you want to know what something is, just touch that and you can touch anything else on the screen. It doesn't activate that thing, but it tells you what's going on. So that's a really useful thing down there. Now this here is the menu. That's what I touched first to show you how you can get into the different stitches. So touch that, go to this oval down here, and you have all these groups of stitches. Now there's more. You can go over here. It goes all the way up to 10. 10 are your save stitches, your favorite stitches, and there's a lot of memory in here. I have actually several save stitches that I have put into the machine. It's also the save stitches is also a good way to, let's say you have a certain zigzag that you want those adjustments saved, just save that in the save stitches, and it really works great. Okay, so then we talked about settings. I have another video on settings, but just know that this has 3 different categories. One is about information about the machine, one is adjusting things for the machine, and one is adjusting things for sewing. And then pushing OK is how you get out of that. Okay, over here we have our mirror keys. The mirror keys that flip it this way and flip it this way. And an example of that, I'll just take, let's get out of that. Let's take one of these here. Let's go with animal stitches. Okay, so this little cat here. We can turn that cat this way. We can turn that cat this way. So that's useful if you want to have, say, kitty cats on the hem of a garment. You can do that so that the hem of the garment is this way and the body of the garment is over here. So that's a useful thing. Also in sequencing, sometimes you want to flip things over or turn things around. You can do that too. Okay, and then now I'm going to show you how to get back into straight stitching. All right. So let's say, for instance, we're into this particular stitch and we want to get back into just regular old straight stitching. Touch the menu first, touch the oval. Now we want to get into essential stitches, which is category number 1. So we go back here to category number 1, essential stitches. It's right here in the upper left-hand corner. Just choose that one and you're back into straight stitching. Also, in the upper right-hand corner is zigzag. So those 2 stitches that you use really commonly, the straight stitch and the zigzag, are easy to find right there in category 1. Okay, now this here is the delete key, the little garbage can. Now that is useful for if you're doing sequencing or stitch creator or something like that, and you want to take something out, or let's say you've spelled a word and you misspelled something. You can highlight that particular stitch or letter and push the little garbage can, and it takes it out so you can put the correct letter in. That's it, for instance. Okay, so right now, drop my stylus there. By the way, it's a good idea to use your stylus when you are touching the screen rather than using your finger. It's a lot more precise, especially if you're doing something like moving little stitches around in Stitch Creator. Okay, so for now, I'm going to show you a little bit about what's going on right here. Now remember, when we were just right there, none of that showed up. Okay. Actually, let me back up. I'm going to just talk about what's happening here. This here is not something you touch. It's just a recommendation for that particular stitch. It shows you the foot you need to use, which is your 0A foot. Happens to be the one on the machine. And to use your integrated dual feed, which is the little walking foot on top. Some stitches, like your satin stitches, will not recommend that, and that's because you don't want that extra abrasion on the top of your stitches. This here gives you your free motion options. Now the Sensormatic free motion foot is what comes with your machine, but you can get the spring foot and the dynamic spring foot and the ruler foot as additional accessories. But this gives you options for that. That's what that's for. This one here is if you're going to put something into memory. So if I want to, say, move this stitch over and have it maybe a little bit shorter for some reason, and I want to save that in memory, I could do that right there. There it is. It's saved. Now, to get rid of that, all I'd have to do, first of all, is, okay, now that we're in the Save To, so we're going to get out of that. I'm going to get back into memory itself. Go forward here. That's how you get into your memory. And then choose that. Now I want to get rid of that stitch, so I push the little garbage can first. Then I go like that. It tells me, it gives me that little warning thing just to make sure, do you really want to do it? And I say, yes, I want to get rid of that. That's out of there. So that's a little bit about how to use the memory. Just remember, it's a little heart up in the corner to put it in, a little heart over on the menu part to take it out or to retrieve it from memory. Okay, now let's get back into straight stitching again. I just want to kind of go from there. Here we have, I showed you before, you can, with a straight stitch, you can move your needle over. If you can see how the needle's moving over, either just by step or press and hold. And then here you can make your stitch longer or shorter. Here I've got a really long, nice long basting stitch. Let's say I want to get it back into default without having to move these around. All I need to do is reselect the stitch. Really easy. This here is your thread tension. So you don't have a tension dial up here. You have it right here. So you can select it for each individual stitch. Makes it really nice and convenient. We already talked about this. This is for memorizing your stitches. Now this is a really nice feature here. Let's say I wanted to do a straight stitch and I wanted to have that nice little tie-off stitch right at the beginning. And the tie-off stitch on Pfaff machines actually is a single stitch that goes back and forth. It's not just stitching in place. Really nice feature. So if I want that built in right at the beginning, there I go. And now I can have that tie-off at the beginning. Now at the end, I can simply do a tie-off here, and I don't really need this. But this one here is nice for if you're doing lettering or say a series of stitches where it doesn't have the tie-off at the beginning, but you want it also to just do, say, a name and not keep repeating that name, and then you might want to have that there. Let's say you want to, after your tie-off, have it automatically cut your threads so you don't have to push this button. Really nice to have those features. So you can kind of mix and match. Also, you can leave this window open and keep sewing. You don't have to close it, but you certainly can. I'm going to turn those off for now. And this one gives you several options. Now, what this one will do is, let's get into a zigzag. I'm going to show you that. Now, that happens to be the applique zigzag. So if I wanted to taper that at the end, I could do that. At the beginning, at the end, I could taper it this way. If you do a long press, you can actually have more options. Here, I can taper it the other direction. Or let's go down here to the bottom one. Make a long hold, and I can make it taper that way. So tapering, I'm not going to get into that this time because it would make it really a long video, but just know that to start tapering, this is where you'd push your reverse button to get it to start tapering. Okay, I'm going to turn those off for now and show you some of the other options. Now, for these two options, we're going to get back into straight stitching. Open that up again. So for this one, if you were going to do a certain length of stitch, at the point where you got to that, where you wanted to stop, you press your reverse button and it tells the machine to stop. Then you could do the same length of stitch over and over again. It's really nice for certain types of quiltings or quilting piecing where you have Y seams and stuff like that. You could also do this one instead, which gives you the number of stitches. Say you wanted an even 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 stitches. That'll give you just 5 stitches, and the machine will stop after 5 stitches. So you could do 10 or 15 or however many you want to do. It's really a nice feature. So I'm going to turn that off for now. But that's what this little guy is for. It's for lots of different things. Now this is your sequencing button. So this is where you could spell things. You could say maybe make a heart go this way and a heart go this way using your mirror keys. Lots of things that you can do in that. This one is your Stitch Creator. Now, Stitch Creator is a whole thing of it in and of itself, but I'm going to show you a couple of the stitches that I created using this. Now, you can either put individual little things, move them around, touch that one there, move that around. There's a lot you can do. You can repeat that, make another one, repeat a whole sequence. In other words, there's a lot you can do. And you can just get rid of the whole thing if you want to do that. So you can import stitches and change them. I'm going to give you an example of ones that I did over here, and that's showing my memory. I took a stitch and I made it look like that. I'm going to uncheck that there. That stitch, I'll show you what that originally was and see how it's got individual stitches. I can move those around. I'm going to show you what that originally was. I'm going to get into, I happen to know where it is. It's in that category, Stippling Stitches. I used this one here, and I imported that one into Stitch Creator, moved things around, and I got that little stitch that looks like holly leaves. Also made that one that looks like Christmas bulbs, and it's really a lot of fun that you can do to create stitches and save them in your machine. So that's Stitch Creator. I already talked about the mirror key. Now, if you have a stitch that's pretty much symmetrical on both sides, this one is not going to really make much difference, but this one will. Okay, and then this is, of course, your delete key. So that is your touch screen. There's a lot of capability with it. I suggest you just try things out. Get a scrap of fabric. If you have thin fabric like quilting cotton, use a piece of stabilizer behind it, and that'll help keep your stitches nice and flat. But you might even want to do a full sampler of the different kind of stitches so you can see what they look like when they're stitched out, as well as some variations that you can do with length and width and even your different colors of thread. If you use a heavier thread, I would recommend making your tension a little bit lower if you're heavier thread on the top than you have on the bobbin. So I hope you found this helpful and enlightening, and if you have, give us a thumbs up. And if you have comments or questions, you can leave those in the area down below. We have lots of other videos on this machine and on other machines here on our Montevilla YouTube channel. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Bye.